Okay. I've been doing seminars for the bishop for years, and every time he'd evaluate my seminars, he'd tell me the same thing. Really good stuff, you communicated really well, but your joke stunk. So I'm going to tell you a joke, the same joke that I've told for years. In fact, I teach CPAs advanced auditing. It's really how to audit churches. About 3 months ago, I told a group of CPAs this joke. And you know how your pastor, when he's telling a joke and it bombs, you at least smile. You know, you look at him and you smile like this and you go like that. I told this joke and not one person laughed. And they just looked at me for a few minutes. So what I did is we continue to teach the class, and somebody stands up and they're real mad because we got to do all this auditing stuff, additional stuff from Enron. And I'm thinking of the joke over in my head again, and I'm starting to laugh by myself again. So I'm going to tell you the joke, and you can tell me whether or not I should continue to tell the same joke. A pilot and his co-pilot are flying this small plane, and they're coming over Florida here. And the pilot looks at the co-pilot and he says, "Look, we're out of gas." And the pilot goes, "No." He goes, "There's nowhere to land." And the co-pilot goes, "We have to land or we'll die." He says, "We have to land this plane." So the pilot looks ahead, and there's this really, really short landing strip coming up, real short. And the pilot goes, "We're going to land down there." And the co-pilot goes, "No, we're going to die if we land down there." So he goes, "I don't care, we're going to land this plane." So the pilot comes down, and the landing strip is only 30 feet wide. He hits the front of it, slams on the brake, and 30 feet he comes to a complete stop. And they're both sitting shoulder to shoulder at each other, and they go, "Wow," they go, "that was the shortest landing strip I've ever seen." The co-pilot looks out the window and he goes, "Yeah, but it sure is wide." I got someone here laughing here. I got to hurry up. Anyways, we're going to talk about tax law changes. We're going to talk about this gentleman's question right here. Let me give you a couple background. What happens this year is all of you will experience a change in the amount of your withholding for Social Security. Whether you like it or not, it has already happened. The IRS has changed the rates that you have to withhold from your employees. All right? And we have to talk about who are employees, who are ministers, and who are lay employees. All right? You, as treasurers, remember the treasurers stood up? You have probably some of the most complex payroll issues to address, because treasurers of churches have two different statuses of employees. They have ministerial status and lay employee status. They are managed completely differently. All right, this gentleman here first had a question. Who are employees of the church? And I will tell you, the law dictates who employees are and who should get a W-2. There is no doubt, and I think the law is very clear, every head pastor is an employee. I think it's very clear in the law. It gets a little bit fuzzy, though, when you go on. All right? Is your secretary an employee? If she's full-time, she probably is. If your secretary comes in once a month, twice a year, is she an employee? More evidence that she could be a contractor. Person that cleans your church, employee or contractor? It all depends. If that person is, say Ron has a cleaning service and he cleans your church once a month along with other churches, probably more a contractor. Because there's a preponderance of what it is. And what the IRS says is the more control that you have over the person, they are an employee. Of course, some people will say there's some pastors we don't have any control over. All right? But it's clear in the law. A head pastor is an employee. Okay? So you have two statuses, though. What's the difference between these two statuses? And this is where it gets real complex. All right? Pastors fall under what's called dual status. Raise your hand if you heard of dual status before. How many people have heard of dual status? All right. Dual status is only this. Two sentences define dual status. An employee for common law reasons. All right, let me repeat it. An employee for common law reasons. Self-employed for Social Security tax reasons. That's the definition. All right, that's it. Nowhere in there did you hear that the employee is self-employed. They are self-employed for Social Security tax only. That means, are you a pastor, sir? That means he's got the honor of paying all of his own Social Security tax himself. Where if, are you a wife? The wife, if she's an employee and not a minister, we have to match Social Security. We pay half, and she pays half. Okay, that's the difference. The pastors pay 100% of their Social Security tax, or 15.3%. All right? What this law that we're going to talk about here in the next 5 minutes does is it changes the withholding only for the lay employee. Okay? It does not change the withholding for, has nothing to do with pastor. Right. He's happy. It has nothing to do with the church and amounts that they have withheld. Go to the next one. All right. So here's in theory. This is last year, and it's going to change. In theory, what's your name? Carolyn. For Carolyn, what we had to do is we had to withhold 7.65% from Carolyn. We had to match 7.65%, and then we had to remit the entire amount to the IRS. That's what we have to do for her. We don't have an option. If we do not do that for Carolyn, the church has violated federal tax law. If you have an employee and you don't withhold Social Security tax, you have violated federal tax law. And I have cases right now that I'm dealing with where people have worked for the church for 20 years and now want Social Security benefits because they're retiring. Church never paid them. The church is in trouble. All right? So remember, Carolyn gets we take 7.65 from Carolyn as a lay employee and match and remit. All right? Go to the next one. But here's what's going to change. For Carolyn and for Carolyn only, we're going to drop the rate. All right? So Carolyn used to pay 6.2% for Social Security tax, and we withheld 6.2% from her. From starting January 1st, we're only going to withhold 4.2% from Carolyn. Carolyn happy? Carolyn's happy. All right? So what we're talking about is a law that only impacts our withholding from our lay employees. Has nothing to do with pastors at all. All right, go to the next one. All right, go to the next one. We talked about that one a little bit. All right. So here's what happens. Here, if we messed up with Carolyn and we didn't lower the rate in time, January 1st is when we were supposed to change the rate from 6.2 to 4.2. If we didn't, and we withheld too much from Carolyn, by law, they make us pay that back by the end of March. Okay, so it's okay. They said it's okay if you over withheld for a short period of time, as long as you remit that money back to the employee. That's okay. Question? What your status is? Okay, and make sure I got it right. The question is, you're a treasurer and you put a couple hours in every week. Are you paid? Are you paid? The answer is yes, you're paid. You should be getting a W-2. Yeah, a person gets a W-2. I teach a whole tax seminar on just compensation and who gets W-2s. This is kind of hard to fit into this 12 minutes that we have. We're there to withhold from you because you're an employee, regardless of how much you make. Here's what we do, and I'm getting off. How much time do I have? I have 30 seconds. It doesn't matter what you call the compensation. If you call it gift for working for us, it's compensation. All right, doesn't matter. Love offering is another term we use. We don't pay you, we give you love offerings. No, you're paying them, and it's subject to Social Security tax. They're up or down? Down, no limit. You get paid, goes on your W-2. Okay. All right, so here's the conclusion. Go to the last one of this one if you would. Oh, all right, here's the conclusion. That's for the next one. is that starting January 1st, you should have withheld less for your employee's Social Security tax. If you didn't do that, that's okay. You still have time to change, and then you still have time to remit back to the employee. Okay. Do you know what happened this year? The intent of this was to put more money. This is kind of a joke. This is probably funnier than my joke. The intent was to put money in people's hands because we're going to lower the Social Security tax. People are going to take more money home, right? Wrong. What happens is they increase the federal tax rates. All right? So the first pay period for all my state offices, I called them up. And you know what happened? Most employees took home less money than more.